Good day, viewers, and welcome once again to the Bible Speaks. My name is Ron Hector. I'm the minister at the Church of Christ at Richland Park. We continue to give God thanks and praise for many viewers of this broadcast, this program. We strive to the best of our ability to ensure that we speak, thus said the Lord. Yes, our opinions do matter, but when it comes to moral issues, spiritual issues, our opinions need to take a second place. We're looking at the book of Jonah, and we are now at chapter 4. We're coming to the end of this exciting, great, wonderful, sweet book, if you want to call it all those names. But when we talk about the story of Jonah, most people you hear talk about the book of Jonah. They usually stop at chapter 3. They stop at chapter 3. Why? Because that closes the book, and for them on a very positive note. A very positive note. But guess what? When you do that, when you only talk about Jonah being swallowed by the whale and the whale spit him out and Jonah went and preached, you're leaving out a very important section of the book. Why? Because everything else in this book leads up to chapter 4. Which tells us that the book of Jonah is not really, about a fish. It's not about a fish. It is a book about misplaced values. The book of Jonah asks the question, and it bids us to ask the question, what is really important to us? What is really important to you? If you are unable to answer that question, I advise you to go through the book again, because it is a book about misplaced values. So far, we saw that God called Jonah, and Jonah ran away. God sent a storm. Jonah went to sleep. The sailors threw Jonah overboard. The storm ends and, sailors worship God. God sent a great fish that swallowed Jonah. And Jonah spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of that fish. The fish, by God's command, spit Jonah out, and Jonah goes to Nineveh. He preaches an 8-word sermon, and the entire city repents. God changed his mind, and he doesn't destroy Nineveh anymore. It is called again the greatest revival in all history. Just think about it. An 8-word sermon, and hundreds of thousands of people repented. Now, and you would think that Jonah would have been, all excited, trailed over the moon. This is what every preacher dreams about. Getting thousands of people to just turn their life to God. Just turn around, turn to God. Work with me here for a bit. This is a preacher's equivalent of winning an Olympic gold medal. There you are standing on the podium, receiving that medal. And this medal, it signifies that you are the best in the entire world at this particular sport, at this particular event. That's what it means. But Jonah was in no mood whatsoever to celebrate. They have this saying that you just can't please some people. Yeah, Jonah was one of them. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the story about a man and a woman who got married. And this husband just thought he would give, some special treatment to his new wife. So he got up early and he brought her breakfast, in bed. The wife wasn't much impressed. She looked at the breakfast and she said, you poached the egg and I wanted it scrambled. So the next morning, the husband figured that, he'll make things right. Got up early again. And this time he brought her scrambled eggs in bed for breakfast. She said to him, you think I want the same thing every day? I mean, I wanted a poached egg this morning, but this husband was determined to please his wife. So the next morning, he brought 2 eggs, 1 scrambled, 1 poached. She said, here you go, sweetheart, just enjoy yourself. She looked at the plate and she said, you scrambled the wrong egg. Yeah, we've heard that over and over again, but it just signifies that there are some people you just simply cannot please. No matter what you do. And guess what? Jonah was one of those persons. He was one of those persons. I mean, again, let's reason together. Have you ever heard of a preacher who got upset, who got just stark raving mad because people responded positively to his preaching? Can you imagine? You go to a worship service and this guy is preaching his heart out and you respond positively and he gets upset. Imagine finding a preacher sitting outside the church building one Sunday after crying his eyes out, and you go up to him and ask him what's wrong. And he says to you, when the invitation was extended this morning, 20 people came forward to be baptized. And I am just so upset, I just want to die. Seriously? But as strange as that may sound, that was exactly the way that Jonah responded to what happened in Nineveh. That's how he responded. We saw Jonah preach in Nineveh, and the entire city, 600,000 plus people responded to Jonah's invitation. They repented and they turned to God. We in chapter 4, look at verse 1. Chapter 4, verse 1. Here is Jonah's reaction to what just transpired. Chapter 4, verse 1 says, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was angry. He was angry. He was angry. Going back to the Hebrew, that the word that is used in this verse, it is so significant. So significant. The word is R-A, Ra. Ra. It means something evil, something really, really bad. It was Ra to Jonah. It was a great Ra. It was a great evil to Jonah. He thought it was something really, really bad. So what was it that was so bad? The fact that God was no longer going to destroy Nineveh. In Jonah's mind, that is Ra. That is really, really bad. Now, those words are even more significant when you go back to the last verse of chapter 3. Because in chapter 3, verse 10, the same word, Ra, R-A, is used there twice in the Hebrew. It says that the people of Nineveh turned from their Ra, and then God decided not to send Ra upon the city of Nineveh. It's right there. The people of Nineveh turned from their evil. And God decided not to do something really, really bad to the city. Do you hear young people jumping up, rah, rah, rah? They even know what they're talking about. That's bad. It's really, really bad. That's what the word means. So when the Ninevites are committing sin, God thinks that is rah. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. And if he has to destroy people because of their sin, then guess what? That's really, really bad also. It's really, really bad. But here's Jonah. Here is Jonah. Jonah said, come on. Let me show you what is really, really bad. You see, when God forgives people of their sins, that is what's bad. That is raw. You see, Jonah's attitude has been clear from the very beginning. Right? I mean, you can't fault him. From the very beginning, Jonah established, God, you see me? It is fine for me if you send these people straight to hell. God, just go right ahead. Open the trap door. Do whatever you have to do. But you need to destroy those people. Just basically wipe them off the face of the earth. They are no good. They're too wicked. Just get rid of them. That is how Jonah felt from day one. That is how he felt. And so now when God forgives them, Jonah says, that's a great evil. But that's really, really bad. God does a really, really bad thing that you have done. That's bad. And you know, we can criticize Jonah for the way he felt about Nineveh. Yeah, we could, of course. We could pass all kind of remarks on him. But you know what? I haven't heard of a single congregation, church, organization, whatever, anyway, that has been making an effort to send a missionary over to preach to ISIS in the Middle East. I haven't heard it. I haven't seen it. I haven't heard anybody making any attempts to go and preach to, Boko Haram and his kidnapping militants in Nigeria. I haven't heard it. I haven't seen it. Because in our mind, there are some folks that is just so evil that we are not even sure that we want them to get to heaven. And it don't have to be those folks who just, outright practice, wickedness. It could be some folks that, you basically carrying around in your mind rent-free. You just keep carrying around because of what they've done to you in the past. You ain't letting that go. They don't deserve to get to heaven. Me, I ain't going and they ain't going neither. Mm-mm. And then in verse 2, we learn why Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh in the first place. Chapter 4, verse 2. He says, "O Lord, is not this what I said when I was yet in my country? This is why I flee to Tarshish. This is why I went the opposite direction. For I knew that you are a gracious God. I knew you are merciful. I knew you are slow to anger. I know you are abounding in steadfast love and relenting from disaster." God, I just knew you. I just know this was going to happen. Man, I told you so. Huh? I told you so. He didn't want to go to Nineveh in the first place because he didn't want those people to repent and to be spared. They deserve to die. They deserve to die. And Jonah basically says to God, I knew you'll end up being nice to them. I know. You think I didn't know? I know. Because Jonah wanted the full measure of God's wrath to fall upon them. No mercy whatsoever. Because the Assyrians were cruel and vicious people. They killed children, women, torture men, make pyramids out of their skull. I mean, you name it. Jonah believed that people like this didn't deserve God's mercy. Jonah believed they deserved to be totally annihilated, get off the face of the earth. You all don't belong with civilized people. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. But do you notice how much Jonah is like the older brother in Jesus' parable of the prodigal son? You notice the similarity? Notice with me. Because that brother, he would have been so much happier if his younger brother had just stayed in that far country feeding pigs. He'd have been the happiest man on the face of the earth. You see, but when his brother returned, he was just upset. Can you imagine that? Your little brother get himself caught up in all kind of foolishness. And he decided to, come back home, start to put on a little smile and, be himself again. And you upset. Yeah, that's what happened to him. He's upset. Why is he upset? Not so much as his younger brother, no. He was upset with his father. Because the father now was willing to forgive his son and treat him like nothing ever happened. And in his mind, that's not fair. And you know how we just behave sometimes. You know how we just behave sometimes. That's not fair. But do you notice the irony in Jonah's story? You go back to chapter 2, all right? And here is Jonah in the belly of the fish, praying to God, asking God to extend a little mercy. Asking God to extend mercy. And Jonah was okay with God's mercy as long as he was the one who was receiving it. Ding, ding, ding. Ring a bell? Sounds like anybody you know? Yeah. As long as I am receiving the mercy, things is okay. But now he's getting upset with God because God now is showing mercy to the city of Nineveh. We're so selfish sometimes. It's all about us. I'm supposed to get all the blessings and all the nice things and everything's supposed to come my way. As soon as somebody else gets it, but if I don't like them, oh good, trouble. Plenty trouble. See, God, I want you to be gracious to me. Nobody else. Sometimes that's, we get caught up in that. God, thank you for being patient with me, but I don't want you to be patient with them. The police officer could spare me when I, drive bad on the road and I do my foolishness. But you see that minivan driver, man, they deserve it. They're too reckless. Excuse my recklessness, but not theirs. We're not justifying wrongdoing. We're not showing how we think at times. It's right here in Jonah. God, thank you for giving me a second chance, but I will never, ever, ever give them a second chance. That's how we think sometimes. That's how we roll. Yeah, that's how we roll. It's called resentment. Resentment. So many of us, we need to dig into Jonah and understand what is going on, because so many of us, like Jonah, we harboring all kind of resentment in our heart. All kind of resentment. We feel resentment towards someone, because they've hurt us, and we're just not willing to forgive them. So again, as I said earlier, the right here, we carrying them wrong, rent-free. Rent-free living up here. Rent-free. There are some people, because of, sadly, sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. There are some people who have been told that they're no good. They're not worth anything. They never amount to anything. You have a friend who have done you wrong. Yeah, they let you down. They walked away. They said they're done with this friendship. Or even worse, they turn on you. People say all manner of evil. They slander your name. I mean, you name it. Spread all kind of rumors. Spread all kind of lies on you. And as a result, guess what? Your heart now is filled with nothing but resentment. Resentment. Even in marriages. As a marriage officer, I know what I'm talking about. You have husbands and wives who are just resentful. They resent one another. Oh, you spend too much money. You're not meeting my emotional needs. I mean, you name it, over and over and over and over. Turmoil after turmoil, mayhem after mayhem, sadness after sadness. Seen it all. Resentful because of things that happened in the past. Somebody come and they borrowed money from you and they didn't pay you back. Believe you me, it has happened to me over and over again. They come and they borrow something and they keep it like it's their own, like it's their own. There's some people who just resentful, especially to their boss. I was supposed to get this promotion and look, they're going to give it to somebody else. You know how hard I work for this? Resentment. Resentment. There are parents who are resentful towards their children. You know, I used to have a nice relationship with them. All of a sudden they get big and they go on their own way. Resentment. And even children are resentful towards their parents because they're not treating them the way they think they should. In every facet, every relationship you could think about, resentment is present. But here is the thing. Here is the thing. We need to learn to forgive. We need to learn to forgive. We need to learn. And we not learn, but we must forgive. You see, we want to ensure that we have a society of people who have the ability to mesh, dwell, live together. And in order for that to happen, forgiveness must be present. Because as you say and go, tongue and the teeth, too close, one always bite, Yeah. We live in real close, and friction, tension, problems are going to arise. Can't run away from it. It's inevitable. Can't run away from it. So I'm saying, we cannot afford to be like Jonah, wanting God to forgive us, but we're not willing now to forgive others. Can't work. Because our Lord and Savior made it clear, if we do not forgive men their trespasses, don't even come and ask me anything. If you cannot forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive you your trespasses. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 15, it's right there. It's right there. You see, so those of us who are recipients of God's grace, present please, we should be the ones most willing now to extend that grace towards others. Yeah. You see, but Jonah was not one to forgive and to forget. You talk about, a child showing tantrum. Every time I read the book of Jonah and I see chapter 4, Jonah's behavior, I see what is little boy, what is little child now? Pouting because he didn't get your own way. Huh? You can understand that? Look at verse 3. Jonah chapter 4, verse 3. He says, therefore now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. Talk about a drama queen. I mean, dramatic. Seriously, Jonah. You ain't get your way, so you are die. Now, Jonah may have the distinction of being the first drama queen in all history. I mean, life is so terrible. I just can't stand it anymore. Please let me die. Seriously? But when he was back in the belly of the fish and he was about to die, guess what? He said, please God, let me live. Please God, let me live. Because only when we're down, we start looking up. Only when we recognize, see me, I can't help myself in this situation. Cancer is growing all over my body and I can't help it. There's nothing I can do to stop it. God, I'm going to put it in your hands. Only in moments like these do we remember and recognize, really recognize that there's a God above. Please, God, let me live. And now, after his mission to Nineveh, after his successful preaching, when Nineveh is concerned, he prays, please God, let me die. Because if you are going to let those people live, then just go ahead and take my life, because I cannot stand living on the same planet with all of them. And believe you me, we in 2021 and nothing has changed. The attitude of Jonah is so prevalent, not just in our society, in every society. In every society. You talk about bad attitudes, nasty attitudes. Yeah. But here is a man who was God's prophet. You know, sometimes we read this book of Jonah and we wondered, I mean, God, what are you going to do about those people in Nineveh? But as we said last week, the real question is, yes, God was able to save Nineveh, but is he able to save Jonah? God, what are you going to do about Jonah? I mean, these people in Nineveh, they're safe, they're cool. They heard your preaching, they repented, they changed their life, went down in sackcloth and ashes, they're good. What are you really going to do with Jonah? Honestly. You see, that is a very important question, because there's a little, or I should say a lot of Jonah in all of us. In all of us. I just tell people, don't call me pastor. I'm not a pastor. I may give you a new name for me. Call me presenter. Pastors like to live in the past. I'm a presenter. I bring things into the present. Because there's a lot of Jonah in all of us. God's response to Jonah is simply to say, do you do well to be angry? Do you do well to be angry? I mean, come on, Jonah. Do you really have good reasons to be angry? And believe you me, in Jonah's mind, yes, of course, come on. Come on. Come on, of course. I have all right to be angry. I have all right to be upset. In the first place, I didn't want to be here. I knew this was going to happen. Look at what you're going to do. Asking me if I have all right to be angry. Of course I have all right to be angry. And sometimes, that is how we behave. That's how we behave. When things don't go our way, that's how we respond. Come next week, God's willing, we're going to pick it up from verse 5. We're going to see what transpired when Jonah go up on the hill just to see what is going to happen to this city. Maybe, maybe God will just change his mind and burn some fire upon them. My name is Ron Hector. I want to thank you for your time. See you next week, God's willing. Thank you.
The word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path.